Today's morning coffee vinyl side, Carl Reiner and Mel Brooks, 2001 years, 1961. Carl Reiner and Mel Brooks were giants of comedy, and in many ways it was their comedic vision, together and individually, that shaped and defined the funny as it evolved through the television era. As early sketch artists and comedic actors, they helped develop both the form and content of everything we take for granted as always having been there with respect to modern comedy on TV. And be it television or film, as actors, directors, producers, and writers, both men left us with a canon of riches that will still be influencing the trajectory of comedy for years to come. We lost Carl Reiner in 2020 after he'd graced us with 98 years. But we've still got Mel. He's probably not going to make it to 2,000 years like the featured character of this album. But he's got his sights on 100, and I sure hope he makes it. I think there's still more comedic wisdom there for him to pass along. And with the recent passing of Norman Lear, Brooks is the last man standing. Something to honor, but also lament. Being the last man standing might sound like a victory until you realize that it also means you're standing alone. Hopefully, he's still got good people by his side. Listening to old comedy is risky. Not only does comedy have a temporal relationship to people and events, it's also got a flavor, and sometimes time obliterates both. My wife and I put this on with some trepidation. The comedy albums we've spun so far have been a bit hard to process, particularly the really old ones. You could turn the exercise of listening to those into a drinking game for every instance of sexism or racism that you'd hear. But for some albums, that would mean tipping the bottle back and drinking it straight through. Not much of a game, really. Thankfully, this album was not one of those. There are a few cringe moments here, but the humor largely transcends the erosion of the funny by time and is surprisingly resilient, meaning it's still quite funny. Not bad for a 60-year-old comedy sketch. And can you imagine what these two guys would have been like at a dinner party after a few drinks?